Part 190. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1896. Didn't catch up. Xianxia, who was hiding in the tortoise shell and slowly flying towards the Chaos Star Sea, could not help but feel a little disappointed. If he could lead the Dragon King and the Phoenix King away, it would definitely be a good thing for him. In the fairy world, he was no match for the kings of these two beasts. But in the Chaos Star Sea, that's not necessarily the case. Forget it, it was just to get back the eyeball. Xianxia did it by the way, and the main purpose was to get close to Zuyun. Let's go find Zuyun first. This kid hasn't moved for a long time, and I don't know what he is doing. Anyway, in his eyes, I am the immortal lord. Let's see if there is any way to let him fight with Qiulinjian first. Seeing that the dragon and phoenix kings were no longer chasing him, Xianxia sped up and flew towards the Chaos Star Sea. He could feel the location of the Chaos Emperor chain, which was the reason why he came all the way here. Little did he know that he was extremely loyal to the immortal Lord Tongtian. The immortal Lord Tongtian wanted to kill him. Almost. At this moment, Zuyun has already found some tricks. He is trying to take the soul-devouring demon star into his forehead in one breath, and that will be considered a success. As long as it enters the forehead, it is equivalent to being placed in the Liuli immortal realm. At that time, it doesn't matter where in the Liuli immortal realm it appears. Zuyun believes that as long as he wants, the soul-devouring demon star can also appear at any location as he wishes. However, as the first demon star to be placed, Zuyun naturally needs to treat it differently. Soul-devouring demon Lord Xiuyan's attitude is still good. As the Chaos Immortal power continues to flow out, Zuyun originally planned to rely on the Chaos Immortal power to swallow up the soul-devouring demon star in one fell swoop. But now, he has also changed his mind. He used the Dozhuan Xinyi formation to completely isolate the soul-devouring demon star from the immortal realm. Just like the mountain ceiling formation of Lianyu Mountain. Afterwards, he filled the space in the formation with chaos immortal power to simulate the state of chaos. In this way, his law of chaos can be manipulated at will. In the chaos, everything is up to me. After feeling that the chaos immortal power was fully filled, he knew the situation of the soul-devouring demon star clearly, from the rotation speed of the soul-devouring demon star to the every move of the demons in the main city on the demon star. Almost done. Zuyun suddenly condensed his energy and used the divine eye technique. His eyes passed through the soul-devouring demon star and finally fell on the magic knife. The yin-yang chaos circle on the demon knife seemed to have sensed it and changed rapidly. Boom. 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 The demon knife instantly turned into a giant pillar like it was on the holy demon star. At the same time, the handle of the knife also quickly lengthened and stretched towards Zuyun. Ha ha ha, is this the approval of the magic knife, or the approval of the chaos circle above? Zuyun laughed loudly. At this moment, the soul-devouring demon star seemed to be pierced by the magic knife, just like when he was a child, he used a chopstick to pierce a flesh blade. Yes, if this is the case, it will be much simpler. Zuyun's eyes shrank, and they actually showed a chaotic gray-white color. He stared at the handle of the magic knife, and then reached out to hold it. Immediately afterwards, the laws of time and space flowed, and in the formation, thousands of stars also burst into extreme light in an instant. In the fairy crystal, all the fairy power was drained at this moment. Boom. Zuyun held the handle of the magic knife in one hand, and used endless power in the other hand. The soul-devouring demon star also shook and made a loud noise, as if it was forcibly picked out of the real land of the fairy world with the magic knife. Get up. Zuyun's forehead was bulging with blue veins. A demon star, how heavy it is. Not only that, his hands were also shaking constantly, and the glazed immortal realm was also shaken. Finally, Zuyun controlled the magic knife, and he whispered, "Shrink." The magic knife understood and quickly shrank back to its original size until the soul-devouring demon star flew towards his body. "Enter my glazed world." In the roar, a black hole as big as a grain of rice appeared between Zuyun's eyebrows, and at the same time, an endless suction force was generated. Under the laws of time and space and the power of chaos, the extremely huge soul-devouring demon star became smaller the closer it got to Zuyun. Until, when the soul-devouring demon star flew to Zuyun's forehead, it became smaller than the black hole. "Come in." Lu Chen let go of his hand early, but his eyes were fixed on the magic knife. The magic knife also shrank back to the main city of the soul-devouring demon star, but the yin-yang chaos circle on the hilt seemed to stay in front of Zuyun's eyes. With Zuyun's last roar, the soul-devouring demon star and the demon knife finally flew into the black hole. "Whew!" Zuyun felt relieved and exhaled heavily. Only then did he realize that the tens of thousands of immortal crystals around him had been shattered into powder. "I was originally saying that I would stay here and wait and see. It seems that I have to enter the glass world to avoid the limelight. The immortal formation has been destroyed, and there is another demon star missing here, which has led to the laws in the chaotic stars that cannot belong to the immortals, and turbulence has also appeared. This turbulence was caused by the immortals, perhaps to repair the problems here, or perhaps for other reasons. But Zuyun knew that he would die if he touched it. As a Lucian immortal, he has a great sense of crisis. Since it is not easy to stay here, it is just right to go to the glazed world and settle the soul-devouring demon star." Zuyun disappeared from the spot with a flash of his figure, and when he appeared again, he was already in the immortal mansion. "Master, you are finally here. Take a look at the Chaos Lotus." Zuyun was focused on the soul-devouring demon star, so he naturally didn't think about what was happening on the glazed star. When he heard the anxious voice of the dragon stone, he hurriedly looked towards the Xianxia mountain. "I saw." The Chaos Lotus, which had not taken root for a long time, had countless lotus flowers growing roots and growing towards the ground. In addition, the tallest main flower, which was originally cut down by Zuyun and turned into the fairy snow of the glazed world, is now opening again and may bloom at any time. On the side of Xianxia mountain, the fairy light is gone, but there is a giant beast entangled by those roots. The Destiny Ancestor Beast. Not far from the Destiny Ancestor Beast are those friends who were originally waiting here to ascend to immortality. Big Dog, Second Dog, Yezi, Lian Nishang. Even Zhou Ruyu and other juniors. "Chaos Lotus, you are looking for death." Zuyun roared, and his figure flashed. When he appeared again, he had already landed on the flower bud of Chaos Lotus. Just as he was about to cut it off, he was shocked to find that it was Meng Wei in the flower bud. Meng Wei curled up, his mind was unclear, and his life or death was unknown. Looking for death. Zuyun was furious, and he raised his palm suddenly, wanting to cut off the flower bud. Unexpectedly, Chaos Lotus finally spoke. "Zuyun, you want to die?" A deep male voice that had never been heard before came from Xianxia mountain. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1897. Chaos Lotus. Zuyun's expression was shocked. When the Chaos Lotus appeared in his belly from the Chaos Seed, it had never had any communication with him. Even if the Chaos Lotus wanted to seize the glazed world and absorb the world's origin for his own use, Zuyun cut off its roots and never heard its miserable cry. But he didn't expect that Chaos Lotus would take the initiative to speak first before he took action this time. "Wish Yun." The voice from Xianxia mountain continued to be heard, and the tone was extremely angry, saying, "You used me, and I tolerated it. You chopped off my main flower, and I tolerated it. You chopped off my roots, and I tolerated it. But now I want to. Why do you want to stop this Liuli immortal realm? What did you say? Upon hearing this, Zuyun was stunned. Chaos Lotus saves the Liuli immortal world? His heart sank, and he didn't find any problems in Liuli immortal world. Chaos Lotus, Zuyun shouted in a low voice, don't try to trick me. I lied to you. Why should I lie to you? Chaos Lotus said angrily, without me, how could your glazed immortal realm be possible? You have not yet reached the immortal lord, and your laws have not yet been established, but you rashly snatched a world star from the Tongtian immortal realm. This is courting death. What do you mean? Zuyun suddenly frowned. Humph, Chaos Lotus snorted coldly, it doesn't mean anything, it's just what it means. Chaos Lotus was born in chaos, grows up in chaos, and is one with chaos. I was born in your body, grew up in your body, and am one with you. But you are so ignorant. Zuyun said coldly, you were the one who wanted to take over this glazed world. It's not that I want to take it, Chaos Lotus shouted in a low voice, as if he hated iron for not being able to become steel, it's that I have to take it. Your sky is falling apart, and if I don't fix it, the chaotic power of the Tongtian immortal realm will pour in, and Liuli will the fairy world will be completely destroyed. If you think about it carefully, if I make up for the gap in the sky, will I destroy this glazed world? These words immediately stopped Zuyun. He couldn't help but recall the scene at that time. The Chaos Lotus is constantly absorbing the incoming chaos power, and then gives birth to thousands of Chaos Lotus flowers. Moreover, he also tried his best to block the gap. At that time, when he saw the roots of the Chaos Lotus growing under the ground of the glazed world, he thought that he was going to absorb the original power of this world. The origin of the world is inexplicably connected to himself, so his body feels the loss of the power of the origin. Suddenly, Zuyun thought of the key. There seemed to be a misunderstanding. However, it is impossible for Zuyun to admit it. Chaos Lotus, since you have good intentions, why don't you communicate with me? Chaos Lotus still said in a deep voice, it's not that I don't communicate with you, it's that you haven't reached Immortal Lord yet, so it's hard for me to communicate with you. And when things happened, it was so sudden, how could I still have time to communicate with you? Do you think that your Liuli Wonderland could make up for this day? Zuyun took a deep breath. It was indeed true. The glazed fairy mirror only used the laws of time and space to block the influx of chaotic power, but the surroundings continued to shatter. In the end, he used the chaos immortal power of the glazed world and the scales of the dragon suppressing stone to fill in the gaps that the Chaos Lotus had not blocked. For this reason, dragon suppressing stone almost died. Then, why don't you tell me later? Zuyun stood in front of the reborn main flower of the Chaos Lotus with a solemn expression. There is no need to say more later, but you are lucky enough to take the initiative to place me on Xianxia mountain. The fairy crystals here can also warm and nourish me. Now that the matter has come to this, saying more is just an afterthought. It doesn't make any sense. Zuyun's eyes narrowed, then why can you say it now? Previously, he said that Zuyun had not yet reached the Immortal Lord, so he could not speak, but now he can speak again. This is the only doubt he can find at this time. Although he believed in Chaos Lotus. But you have to figure out all the issues. If you don't tell me now, your entire fairyland will collapse. Do you think the fairyland is really complete? Zuyun was non-committal, the immortal world was in his purple house consciousness sea. In other words, this immortal world is his sea of consciousness. The Liuli immortal realm collapsed. Does this mean that his sea of consciousness collapsed and his immortal soul disappeared? That Chaos Lotus was really right before, he wanted to die. Zuyun took a deep breath and said, is it because I placed a world star? That's right, Chaos Lotus said, let alone the world star, even if it is a desolate land, it belongs to the Tongtian immortal realm. What you are doing is equivalent to declaring war with the Tongtian immortal realm. The fairy world and the fairy world already exist in parallel. You have not yet reached the immortal world. June, it's the same as being in the immortal world. Just imagine, if someone weaker than you takes away something from you, even a grain of rice, will you let him take it? Zuyun gradually understood the meaning and said, of course I don't want to. That's it. The main flower of the chaos lotus swayed, and actually flew down from the stem, turning into a graceful woman wearing grey gauze. At the same time, the voice became distinguishable between male and female. Zuyun, you understand this truth, so now you know what to do, right? Being an enemy to the entire fairy world. Zuyun had no time to look at Chaos Lotus's outstanding figure and her pure and beautiful face, because when he said these words in his heart, he couldn't help but tremble. It's not that you are the enemy of the immortal realm, Chaos Lotus shook his head and said, it is the immortal realm that wants to be the enemy of you. When you go out again, you will be suppressed by the immortal Deo. Unless, Zuyun said, unless I break through to the realm of immortal Lord. Yes, Chaos Lotus nodded, and said, but you have been targeted by the immortal Deo. So, it is very difficult for you to break through to the realm of immortal Lord in Tongtian immortal realm. Zuyun narrowed his eyes, then what if I break through to the realm of immortal Lord here? Chaos Lotus chuckled, the immortal Lord you break through here will not be recognized by Tongtian immortal realm. Just like Wan Potion's immortal Lord is not recognized here. Zuyun suddenly realized why Ergu was able to completely suppress Wan Potion with the appearance of a terrestrial immortal just after he became an immortal. It's not that Wan Potion doesn't have the Chaos Sword, nor that he doesn't have the 10,000 Swords Mountain. It's Wan Potion's immortal Lord is virtual. Ergu's terrestrial immortal is real. I understand a little bit. Zuyun's frown was still there, but it was much more relaxed than before. The immortal realm is my enemy, but I still have to break through to the immortal Lord realm in the immortal realm, is that right? Yes, seeing that Zuyun completely understood this, Chaos Lotus tone also became relaxed, saying, so, it will be difficult for you next. Is it difficult? Zuyun chuckled, but suddenly froze his expression, saying, cultivating immortals, is to go against the will of heaven. And as an immortal lord, I have to go against the way of immortals. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1898. Seeing that he didn't care, Chaos Lotus couldn't help but ask, aren't you afraid that it will be difficult to move even in the fairy world? Are you afraid it will be useful? Zuyun couldn't help but ask. It's really useless, Chaos Lotus said seriously, to remind you, I have consumed a lot of Chaos Origin. Zuyun, what can I gain if I merge with this glazed star? This fairy world is stable. Do you know what it will become in the end? Zuyun pondered for a moment and uttered two words, chaos. Yes, Chaos Lotus said, chaos exists in every immortal world. Chaos produces all things, and all things are chaos. You have understood the law of chaos from the law of the five elements, and in this world, you have combined the law of time and space. In order to unite the two rituals into one, you also placed immortal with 3 talents and immortal roots, and the seals of the 4 divine beasts. Wait a minute, he could still understand what Chaos Lotus said before, but what were these 4 divine beast seals? The seal of the 4 divine beasts, I don't know whether to say it or not, you are very lucky. Huang Xing, do you still remember? Of course I remember it, Zuyun thought for a moment and said, you mean, it was not an accident that I enlightened the 4 directions divine beast fist on the yellow star in all the mortal realms. The disciple he accepted was Tu Juduo, but it was not as difficult as him. He easily understood the four directions divine beast fist. At that time, Zuyun also thought about what the problem was, whether his talent was too poor. Now when I hear Chaos Lotus mention Huangming Xing, of course I will think of this issue again. That's right, Chaos Lotus said, otherwise, how could the 24 Lotus Hearts at that time be 4 more for nothing just because you understood a set of boxing techniques? Zuyun was dumbfounded, and Chaos Lotus continued, in short, you have quite a few laws here. Although they are not completely perfect, they already have the foundation to become an immortal world. Plus, with my Chaos Lotus, you can become an immortal world, it's a matter of time. It's just. She sighed and said, I can't blame you, and I can't blame you. All in all, this place will turn into chaos, and you need to take good care of the creatures here. This has turned into chaos, so beyond the chaos is the fairyland, similar to the outside, Tongtian fairyland. He also suddenly remembered that Chaos Lotus was talking about the heavenly immortal realm. This was the first time he heard that the immortal realm had a name. Of course, except for his Liuli immortal realm. Yes, Chaos Lotus said, the Liuli immortal realm has not yet been completed, but the soul-eating demon star you just placed is suitable for living beings to survive. In addition, what you have here has been recognized by the Liuli immortal Deo, so there is no need to worry about difficulties. Adapt. I see. Zuyundeo said, next time if you have anything to say it earlier. I can't say that anymore, Chaos Lianjiao said with a smile, unless you become a true immortal master. In that case, I can communicate with you directly. Well, I have to help you resist the immortal way, and I don't have time to talk to you. Say. After finishing his words, Chaos Lotus turned around and returned to Jixian Mountain. The next moment, the ground began to shake, and all the chaos immortal power in the air began to decompose, turning into the free chaos power in the chaos. I still don't understand why this is happening here. Zuyun smiled bitterly, muttering to himself, and then looked down. At some point, everyone was looking forward to it, as if they thought Zuyunhui would kill Chaos Lotus. Let's go. Zuyun paused and raised his hand gently. The next moment, the immortal mansion took off. He raised his hand again, and the 12 totem poles on the side of Jixian Mountain and the trial platform on top of them also flew up. In addition, all the buildings on the glazed star, as well as the residences of living beings, are also flying towards the sky. World C, 7-star peak, Qingping Fairy Kingdom. There was a trace of reluctance in his eyes. But thankfully, everyone was able to survive and be safe. Zuyun flashed away and appeared in the main city of Soul Eater Star. Raising his hands again, the 4 demon lords, plus Menguia, also appeared here with confused expressions. In the Liuli immortal realm, Zuyun is more than just the immortal master. As soon as his thoughts move, he is under his control. What does it mean to move some creatures? Chaos Lotus had something to say, which was consistent with his original thoughts. It is he who can make everyone here become an immortal king instantly, including himself. But that doesn't make any sense. Zuyun, what happened? Mengwei didn't know when it happened. He looked at the restriction placed by the magic knife outside and remained puzzled. The same is true for the 4 demon lords. Lu Lixing is destroyed, Zuyun chuckled, with a flash of regret in his eyes, and then said, however, everyone will be fine. To be precise, all living beings will be fine. It's just that they have to temporarily settle in the soul-eating demon the star is up. Having said that, Zuyun even looked at Shi Wuyuan. It's the arrangement of the immortal master, and we have no objections. Shi Wuyuan saw that scene. Although he didn't know what happened, he knew Zuyun's ability. In the eyes of others, only the Chaos Lotus Master transformed into a human being. But what he saw was something deeper. As a demon lord of a clan, he has good eyesight. It couldn't be better, Zuyun nodded with satisfaction, and looked at the other three slightly puzzled demon kings. He didn't explain, and just left it to Shi Huiyan. All the creatures on Liuli Star will live on soul-devouring demon star. I don't want the soul-devouring clan to have any conflict with the creatures on Liuli Star. Don't worry, Immortal Lord, there will be no conflict. Shi Huiyan said immediately. That's it, Zuyun looked at Mengwei and said, I seem to have become the #1 enemy of the immortal realm at this moment. Wei, do you want to go out with me, or stay here? Mengwei's eyebrows shrank. Of course I'll go out with you. Okay, Zuyun clapped his hands and said, then I'll go out first, you help settle the immortal mansion, Lao Shu and the others, I'll call you out after one day. Well, don't worry. Mengwei knew that the task was arduous, so he put away his magic knife. The demon kings knew that they had to inform the changes on soul-devouring demon star as soon as possible to prevent other creatures from coming here and forming conflicts with them. Zuyun stopped meddling in other people's business. With a flash of his figure, he immediately left Liuli Immortal Realm and returned to Tongtian Immortal Realm. The Immortal Realm is famous for Tongtian. As soon as Zuyun appeared, he found an endless pressure coming. He just concentrated his strength a little, and a radiance suddenly appeared between his hands. The Chaos Emperor chain, which was originally like a bracelet and used by him, suddenly became larger and longer, and wrapped around his body. Haha, Zuyun, I have been waiting for you for a long time. I didn't expect you to set up a big formation and hide here. Without the Chaos Emperor chain, it would be difficult for me to lock your position. It is the immortal Wuzong. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1899. Xian Wuxing, why are you here? Zuyun was shocked. He now knew the identity of Xian Wuxing. He was just a pawn in front of the immortal lord. But the other party's strength is comparable to that of the immortal emperor, which shows how strong he is. It's nothing, I just miss you. Come and talk to you. Xian Wuxing smiled and waited for the Chaos Emperor chain to completely bind Zuyun before he flew forward and stood opposite Zuyun. What's there to talk about? Zuyun said cautiously, you are the immortal master, I am just a little Lucian immortal. Since Xian Wuxing didn't take the initiative to reveal his identity, he wouldn't say it either, lest he lose the good news. The Chaos Emperor chain restricted the flow of chaos immortal power in his body, but Zuyun was not powerless to deal with it. His body is restricted, but in the Liuli Immortal Realm, there is enough for him to use his own laws of time and space. No matter what happens, you can still escape back to the Liuli Immortal Realm. Xian Wuxing is not the Immortal Lord, is it possible that he will still pursue him in the glazed Immortal Realm? And even if he catches up, then he is completely against the enemy. No matter how Xian Wuzong is, can he still be able to stir up trouble? Therefore, Zuyun was not very panicked. In fact, he was still carefully trying to control the Chaos Emperor chain. It was good news. Zuyun found out that he could control the Chaos Emperor chain. Maybe it's because I combined them into one using the 5 elements law. Zuyun whispered secretly in his heart, and when he raised his head, he heard Xian Wuxiang say, there is a lot we can talk about. For example, how about chatting about the 2 immortal emperors? Which 2? Dongfang Bai and Zimen Yuanqing. Zuyun squinted his eyes, suddenly a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, and he turned into an angry look, saying, these 2 people actually hurt my friend Wan Potion. If I can see him, I must kill him. You can't be pulled down from the throne. Oh? Wan Potion was injured by them. Xian Wuxing was stunned for a moment, then he guessed that Zuyun must have met Wan Potion in Mayanbei Fairy Kingdom. It's just that Wan Potion is so crazy that he couldn't find out something about it, so he knows that he was the one who was injured. But after he came out of chaos, he didn't go to Wan Potion. Zuyun could only guess by himself whether what he said was true or false. Now, he guessed that Zuyun must have met Wan Potion, and then found traces of fighting with the two immortal emperors at that time. Yes, Wan Potion and I have known each other since we were in the lower realm. Zuyun raised his head slightly and struggled a few more times deliberately. Xian Wuxing, as the immortal lord, I ask you this, do you care? If you don't care, there will be nothing to talk about. No matter what, this must be taken care of, Xian Wuzong said with a smile. You finally released me from Purgatory Mountain. I will definitely remember this great kindness. However, I just came out of chaos, but I don't know what happened. The fairy world is in chaos now, and it has a lot to do with Dongfang defeat and Zaimen and Qing, so I want to talk to you about how to solve this crisis in the fairy world. After all, I haven't found out what happened to me at that time. So that's it, Zuyun nodded and said, then can you untie me before we talk? I finally fused the Chaos Emperor chain, and I thought I could deal with any immortal emperor. But you countered it? Xian Wuxing, as the immortal master, if you want to take back this immortal artifact, you should at least give me a corresponding immortal artifact, right? There's no use following you if you have nothing to rely on. That's true, Xian Wuzong responded in a serious tone, and smoothly took back the Chaos Emperor chain from Zuyun, then said, but you have Chaos Lotus, it shouldn't be difficult to use Chaos Lotus to break through to the Immortal Lord realm, right? Can we break through with the Chaos Lotus? Zuyun pretended not to know, and after the Chaos Emperor chain was removed, although he felt a lot lighter, the pressure of the Immortal Way followed closely, making him a little heavier. Zuyun couldn't help but think of those demons. They are under this kind of pressure all the time, it is really difficult for them. Zuyun also thought of another question. In the sea of chaotic stars, the pressure of the immortal Dao is weakened. If you leave here, I am afraid that the pressure on you will be even stronger. Under this situation, it seems that it is impossible for him to leave the sea of chaos stars in a short time. Of course, the Chaos Lotus is one of the great treasures in chaos. I heard that the five elements loose immortal wanted to find the Chaos Lotus, but unfortunately it was nowhere to be found. Xian Wuxing also sighed. Five elements loose immortal, he seems to be in Purgatory Mountain. I tied him up with the Emperor's chain at that time. I sent him to Purgatory Mountain and handed him over to Lin Zhenghong. I almost forgot. Lin Zhenghong has gone back. It seems that the five elements loose immortal may not survive. Xian Wuxing smiled and said, if Purgatory Mountain gets back on track, it will be of great help to me in putting down the chaos in the immortal realm. Zuyun, what are your plans? No, Zuyun shook his head, I don't dare to leave the Sea of Stars before I reach the immortal Lord realm, and you don't have any immortal weapons for me. Xian Wuxing scratched his head and said, otherwise, there is an immortal weapon suitable for you in the Chinese immortal territory. Why don't we go to the Chinese immortal territory to look for it? No, no, even if you kill me, I won't go, Zuyun shook his head like a rattle. The situation in the Chinese immortal realm is unknown now, and going there is tantamount to courting death. Besides, Ye Yang ordered the Dragon and Phoenix clans to guard the passage to the demon world in front of him, so if he went to the Chinese fairyland, it would be equivalent to having no help at all. With Qiu Linjian here, Ye Yang is like a dead person, unable to help at all. And him going with Xian Wuxing was equivalent to declaring war with Qiu Linjian. Not to mention, he mentioned Chaos Lotus's reminder to break through the Immortal Lord as much as possible in order to reduce the pressure of this Immortal Dao. At the same time, he doesn't know when the Immortal Master will return to the Immortal Realm. Then, Xian Wujiang just wanted to trick Zuyun into the Chinese Immortal Realm. At this time, tying him with the Chaos Emperor chain was just to show off his power. But after hearing what Zuyun said, he had no choice but to say, then I'll go there alone and see when you can break through the Immortal Lord. Zuyun is an important chess piece of immortal Lord Tongtian, and he cannot die yet. Even though Xian Wuxing wanted to kill him, it was not the right time. I don't know about that, Zuyun spread his hands and said, let it go, but Luan Xing'ai is really good, I think it will be soon. Xian Wuxing thought for a moment, took out a jade talisman from his arms, and said, okay then, just inject immortal power into it and let me know. Then I will tell you where to meet, how about that? So good. Zuyun's eyes flashed with light. By then, maybe you can use this jade talisman to kill Xian Wuxing. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1900. Zuyun thought like this, Xian Wuxing also left. Seeing him disappear into the void, Zuyun's face couldn't help but condense. He doesn't believe in the immortal. Just because Xian Wuxing concealed his identity from him. Just in case, I will set up a large formation, otherwise, there is no guarantee that my Liuli immortal realm will not be leaked. Zuyun thought for a moment and decided to go to the three-eyed demon star first. It's nothing to set up a formation. Xian Wuxing knows that he can set up a formation. Even if he has any doubts, he can shirk that it's just for practice. Not long after Zuyun left, Xian Wuxing suddenly appeared again. Seeing that the immortal power here seemed to be a little disordered, he couldn't help but pondered, is this boy Zuyun really practicing here? He stared at the location that originally belonged to the soul-eating demonic star. He always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't remember it. Touching his wrist, he suddenly sneered and whispered, I won't give up until I trick you into the Chinese immortal realm. I must complete the task assigned by the Lord. Only then can I become a real immortal Lord, and then follow the path he took and reach the fairyland. Xian Wuxing disappeared from the Chaos Emperor chain and slowly opened his right eye. When he met Zuyun before, he closed his eyes to prevent Zuyun from becoming alert. On the surface, he sensed Zuyun's position through the Chaos Emperor chain. In fact, after an eyeball returned to its position, he was able to track Zuyun through the Phoenix Immortal Pearl. Come to think of it, you don't know that the fairy beads obtained from the Dragon Clan's ancestral land are my eyes. Xian Wuxing glanced deeper and closed his eyes again. In just this moment, he had determined the direction Zuyun was going. He turned around, and the tortoise-shell immortal weapon suddenly appeared on his body again. He retracted his body again, and the aura of immortal power disappeared again. Looking from a distance, it looks like a fragment of a meteorite floating in the void of the universe. Zuyun had no idea that Xian Wuxing would follow him. But he was cautious and still took precautions. After arriving at the three-eyed demonic star, he followed the same pattern and set up the star transformation formation again. Countless fairy crystals were scattered by him in the world, and his figure disappeared in them instantly. This time when setting up the formation, he did not include the three-eyed demonic star. Instead, he sat quietly at the eye of the main formation, vaguely feeling that the immortal Wuxing left as quickly as it came, which was obviously unreasonable. When something goes wrong, there must be a monster. Xian Wuxing's motives were unclear, and he learned from Ye Yang that he was very scheming and deceitful. The Chaos Emperor chain may have determined my location, so he can find me. But now, he has taken away the Chaos Emperor chain, if I break my promise, how can he find me? Zuyun took out the jade talisman from his arms. At first he thought that the immortal trace could be traced by the jade talisman. But the more I thought about it along the way, the more something was wrong. People with deep intentions will not act so superficially. After thinking about it, Zuyun simply used the divine eye technique and looked at the jade talisman carefully. The direction of the grain is clearly visible. This is clearly an ordinary jade talisman for communication. Zuyun frowned, there is nothing wrong with the jade talisman, so how can Xian Wuxing guard against me? He thought carefully and had an idea in his mind, but he couldn't remember it. But if he doesn't ensure safety, he can no longer choose to insert the three-eyed magic star. Fortunately, Zhu Yun would not blindly take risks. He knew that Xian Wuzong had many tricks, so he simply stayed in the formation. Anyway, in the chaotic sea of stars, it is still safe for him for the time being. It seems a little different there. Zhu Feng flew out of the three-eyed magic star and noticed something was wrong at the first sight. Zhu Yun's star movement formation did not include the three-eyed demon star. But looking at this place from the three-eyed demonic star, it naturally blocks some of the starlight that originally came from far away. Although Zhu Feng was only Deluo Jinxian, he had an extraordinary memory. He had been wandering around for a long time and had entered many magic stars, so he could more or less remember the positions of some stars. But after being blocked, he immediately felt something was wrong. Is it the chaos in the sea of stars, or? Zhu Feng frowned. If he continued to go deep into the sea of chaos stars and went to the holy demon star, he would have to pass here. Even if there is chaos, it is only chaos deep inside. The outside is relatively safe. Zhu Feng hesitated for a moment, then decided to go over and take a look. He still looked like a three-eyed demon and had not removed his disguise. After all, the identity of other races is too sensitive in the chaotic star sea. Flying slowly towards the Dozhuan star shifting formation, Zhu Feng discovered that he had the characteristics of the three-eyed demon clan and had mastered some of the instincts of the three-eyed demon clan. The third eye slowly opened, and he discovered that this was actually an immortal formation. Who would set up an immortal formation here? Zhu Feng was secretly surprised. As far as he knew, few immortals would enter the sea of chaos stars. This formation looked irregular, but it gave him a vague sense of familiarity. Is it, eldest brother? Zhu Feng felt happy when he thought of Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun had told him that he would come to the sea of stars. But considering the time, it shouldn't be that early. After much thought, Zhu Feng decided to try the magic pupil technique obtained from the three-eyed demon clan. The demonic energy surged in his body, and the third vertical pupil on Zhu Feng's forehead slowly opened. A red light suddenly appeared and slowly projected towards the immortal formation. Before the red light arrived, Zhu Feng found an unusual meteorite fragment. He was cautious and full of crisis, and Zhu Yun's appearance here was also unusual. Immediately, he turned the red light towards the fragment, and the next moment, he turned around and ran away. There was actually an immortal king in it. Demon clan? Or the three-eyed demon clan? Xian Wuzong's head stretched out from the tortoise shell, looking at the frightened Zhu Feng, thinking it was just an ordinary demon clan, and sneered, "You are quite sensible. If you don't run, I can only kill you." He retracted his head and continued to float in the same place without moving. He wanted to see what Zhu Yun was doing here. Even the master said that Zhu Yun should not be underestimated, so he naturally needed to be more careful. Zhu Feng ran for a long time and went around the three-eyed demon star, but found that no one was chasing him. He was slightly stunned and stopped. Strange, that immortal, is he guarding Big Brother? He frowned, remembering that Zhu Yun was Luo Tian Xianxia. According to what Zhu Yun told him, he can fight ordinary immortals one by one. If that's the case, then this immortal might want to ambush Big Brother here. No, I'm going to tell Big Brother. If I didn't have the magic pupil technique of the three-eyed demon clan, I'm afraid it would be difficult to find this immortal. Big Brother has the magic eye technique, but the other party's immortal weapon is strange, maybe he can't see through it. Zhu Feng's eyes flashed, and he decided to bypass this place and break into the Dozhuan Xinyi Xian array from the other side to tell Zhu Yun. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1901. In the immortal formation, Zuyun suddenly thought of something. That dragon fairy bead. Yang told him that he dug out Xian Wuzong's eyes at that time, and then made these two eyeballs into fairy beads and gave them to the dragon and phoenix tribes respectively. And what he had in his hand was the dragon fairy bead. Could it be that Xian Wuzong relied on the breath of the dragon fairy bead to lock my position? Zuyun narrowed his eyes and did not take out the dragon fairy bead, but after careful consideration, it was very likely. Besides this, there is no other connection between me and Xian Wuzong. No, he is a member of the Ji family, and now, Ji Tianqing also said that he would assist me. Zuyun pondered and thought of the key point again. However, now Qingping Fairyland has also been moved to the soul-devouring demon star. Should I enter the Liulai Fairyland to find Ji Tianqing, or should I be careful here? Zuyun also frowned. In terms of strength alone, Zuyun is not afraid of Xian Wuzong. But he had no clue to find out the mastermind behind Xian Wuzong, Tongtian Immortal Lord. Therefore, the line with Xian Wuzong cannot be cut off for the time being, and naturally he cannot turn against him. Even if I know that he is plotting against me, I have to pretend that I don't know anything. Zuyun took a deep breath and decided not to go to Liulai Immortal Realm for the time being. In addition, he thought of another question. If what I guessed is true, Xian Wuzong may also go to find Feng Xianzu. The reason why he asked me to go to Zhongfang Immortal Realm is to help him get Feng Xianzu. It is possible that Xian Wuzong's eyes were dug out by Yang. And Feng Xianzu? No, no, Zuyun shook his head violently again. Phoenix King and Dragon King are going to meet at the passage to the demon realm. Is there a possibility that Feng Xianzu is already in Xian Wuzong's hands? If so, he will definitely follow me. Zuyun stood up suddenly, his eyes shining. If that's the case, it will be difficult to deal with Xian Wuzong, and I don't know what else he can do besides scheming. On the contrary, he was able to suppress Wan Potion and make him crazy, which shows that he is very powerful. And at this time, he still has the Chaos Emperor chain in his hand. Even if I look for Lao Wan again, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Zuyun frowned and decided to take action against Xian Wuzong. Otherwise, after he took the eyeball, he would wander around in the fairy world, and with his ability to cheat and deceive, he would make the fairy world even more chaotic. Since we are going to take action, we must make a plan. Now, the only people I can use are the 4 demon kings of Shi Wuyan, plus Wei and Lao Wan. But Lao Wan can't take action directly. He is not the opponent of Xian Wuzong, and Wanjian Mountain and Chaos Sword are in his hands. Wei has the Holy Demon Eye and the Chaos Demon Knife. Although the 4 demon kings are relatively weak, if they burst out at the same time, they can be comparable to the immortal kings. The most important thing is that their magic is to act on the soul. Zuyun counted his available power and immersed his mind completely in the Liulai Immortal Realm. It would be great if the Chaos Lotus could still communicate with me. He glanced at the changing Liulai star. At this moment, under the growth of the Chaos Lotus, the Liulai star was like a gray-white sphere. It can be seen that these are all chaos forces. In the end, will this really become the chaos of Liulai Immortal Realm? Zuyun murmured, and finally focused his mind on the main city of the soul-devouring star. The main city now has become a fairy palace. In the fairy palace, the 4 demon kings, Meng Wei and Wan Potion, were sitting in the open space that originally belonged to the trial platform, discussing something in a low voice. The dragon-suppressing stone emitted a red light from the plaque, and half of its body was extended here, listening to their detailed discussion, and occasionally expressing its own opinions. Zuyun organized his tone, and then directly interrupted them. I'm in trouble, and I need you to come out of the Liulai Fairyland to help me later. The voice was like thunder in the sky, scaring the 6 people. Zuyun. Meng Wei was the first to react, and stood up straight, holding the magic knife in his hand. She knew Zuyun best, and she would not ask for help if she could solve it alone. Well, the trouble is quite big, you listen to me first. Zhu Yun knew that they would not refuse, and the four demon kings also stood up with a solemn look. I met Xian Wuozong. Do you know him? Wan Po's expression was cold, and a sword energy condensed unconsciously in his hand. The four demon kings shook their heads. Meng Wei said, I seem to have heard of this name, but for a moment, I can't remember it. It doesn't matter, I'll tell you directly. Zhu Yun glanced at Meng Wei and told the true identity of Xian Wuozong. When the four demon kings learned that Xian Wuozong was the immortal master that everyone in Tongtian immortal realm thought, they were also extremely shocked. But the one who was more shocked was naturally Wan Potion. He is not the immortal master. Zhu Yun said, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that he is guarding me now, which may be bad for me. However, for now, he doesn't want to hurt me, but just wants to use me. So, I want to strike first and kill him. And I don't know much about his strength and means. Immortal Master, tell me your plan. Shi Huiyan also took the initiative to say. Zhu Yun was satisfied and said, I plan that the four of you demon lords will attack first. This is the Chaos Star Sea, and he is not as familiar with it as you. After the demon lord takes charge and attracts his attention, Wu Ya will attack again. Your magic knife will make him afraid at that time. But before that, you must not reveal your demonic energy, so that he will think you are an immortal and use the Chaos Emperor chain to deal with it. Once the Chaos Emperor chain is out, then it's time for you to attack, Old One. If there is a chance, you can also directly take back the 10,000 Swords Mountain and the Chaos Sword. Then, we will join forces to besiege and kill him in the Chaos Star Sea in one fell swoop. Everyone looked solemn, and there was no point in Zhu Yun's plan. And Wan Potion had fought with him before, so he was naturally familiar with the methods of the immortal Wuzong. He was not afraid of the immortal Wuzong. He was just ambushed before. Now that his injuries have healed, but he lacks two magical powers, so he can only carry out the sneak attack. Zhu Yun, what about you? Meng Wu Ya said with some worry. As for me, I will not join the battle for the time being. I don't know what Xian Wuozong's methods are, so I need to watch you. If anything goes wrong, I will take you back to Liulai Immortal Realm. Of course, I will come back too. This is the worst plan, but also the best way out. With the way out prepared by the Immortal Lord for us, we are naturally not afraid. Shi Huiyan expressed his position again. Originally, he had doubts about Zhu Yun. But after he really appeared in this Liulai Immortal Realm, all the doubts turned into loyalty. Because Zhu Yun really allowed their soul-devouring demon clan to reproduce. Wan Potion also said in a serious tone, Zhu Yun boy, be careful. Well, Zhu Yun responded, you should also plan well. At the moment, I haven't determined his location, but 9 out of 10 times, he is hiding by my side. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1902. Zhu Yun's mind returned to his body. He glanced at the jade talisman in his hand. After pondering for a moment, he took out a lot of fairy crystals and spread them into the star transformation formation. Now that we have decided to fight Xian Wuxing, what is the use of keeping these immortal crystals? Zhu Yun is not stingy. Even in the current Jixian mountain, after becoming one with the Chaos Lotus, he has lost the source of the immortal crystal. But he knows that as long as he kills the Xiaxian without a trace, he can keep him pure for a long time. He vaguely guessed that Xian Wuxing went to Chaos not to search for the so-called source of the immortal world that did not exist at all. It is very likely to rescue the immortal Lord Tongtian who was blasted into Chaos by Ye Yang. If the immortal Lord is born, then this immortal world. Who knows what might happen? What made him feel most abnormal was that Xian Wuxing would rescue Ximen Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai from the foot of Wanjian Mountain and bring them into chaos together. When they first met in the Sea of Chaotic Stars, Xian Wuxing said that he would take him to find trouble with the two immortal emperors, which was also a piece of information that was revealed invisibly. The two immortal emperors are still alive. This made Zuyun feel that Xian Wuxing's plot was not trivial. I don't know what your purpose is, but since it may be detrimental to me, I will kill you first. Zuyun whispered and threw out the last fairy crystal on his body. Then, he slowly flew out of the immortal formation. But not long after they came out of the formation, a figure broke in from the other end of the immortal formation. Zuyun sensed it slightly, but found that it was a three-eyed demon. He secretly thought that he must have entered it by mistake. He had already left the battle. If he went back, he would probably arouse the suspicion of Xian Wuxing. Simply, he stopped caring about it and directly took out the dragon immortal pearl and started acting on his own. Phoenix King, please reply if you hear me. He was serious about it and poured his immortal power into it. The Phoenix immortal pearl suddenly glowed with light, like a shining star in the dark void. Zuyun, this son. When he came out of the formation, he naturally aroused the feeling of Xian Wuxing, but he never expected that Zuyun would be so direct. Unprepared, within the tortoise shell, he had no time to close his eyes, and the same fairy light was projected out from his eyes. Zuyun didn't expect that he would find traces of Xian Wuxing after just a random try. Seeing the fragments floating in the world, he was secretly shocked that Xian Wuxing could hide in it. The tortoise shell was like fragments, and Zuyun paid full attention to the light, not knowing that the rest was Xian Wuxing's natal weapon, a tortoise shell used for fortune-telling. Hey, why is there light there? Go over and have a look. Zuyun still pretended not to know, talking to himself, but also wanted to pass the voice through the dragon immortal pearl, thereby paralyzing Xian Wuxing. Although Feng Xianzu had become Xian Wuxing's eyes again, Zuyun's voice still reached his ears. Zuyun, I don't know that this eyeball has been taken back by me. Why don't I take a look first before talking about it? My tortoise shell fairy weapon has been refined by the Lord. He must not be able to see through it. You will think that something mysterious happened in the chaotic sea of stars. Xian Wuxing also thought to himself, and decided to close his eyes and wait for Zuyun to come over slowly. At the same time, his mind was spinning rapidly. Should he reveal his body and confess and let Zuyun follow him to the Chinese immortal realm to fight Qiu Linjian? Or should he find some suitable excuse to deceive Zuyun, or should he turn around and do it himself? Run away and use the fairy light to lure Zuyun to chase him to the Chinese fairyland? Each of the three methods has advantages and disadvantages. But in the end, Xian Wuxing chose the safest way. Confess to him directly. If Zuyun refuses, the worst he can do is tie him up with the Chaos Emperor chain, then take back the dragon immortal pearl in his hand and put it back in his eye socket. As for Zuyun, just turn him into a lunatic like Wan Potion, and then throw him into the Chinese immortal realm to make a big fuss. Anyway, the Lord's purpose is just to delay time so that Ye Yang has no time to take care of chaos. Just as Xian Wuxing had made his decision, Zuyun had already arrived in front of the fragment. He was also thinking whether to take action directly or try to incorporate Xian Wuxing into his glazed fairy world to besiege him. Unexpectedly, Xian Wuxing suddenly stuck his head out from the turtle shell. Wish Yun. With a low shout, Xian Wuxing stretched out his limbs and stood up, standing opposite Zuyun. Zuyun was caught off guard and was startled. When he looked carefully, he saw that it was a piece of tortoise shell. Of course he recognized it, this was Xian Wuxing's natal magical weapon. How did you end up turning into a turtle? Sun Yunli was afraid that his expression would reveal something, so he asked in a hurry. Xian Wuxing was stunned for a moment, then laughed, and turned to say ferociously, I don't want to act with you anymore. Follow me to the Chinese immortal domain and kill Qiu Linjian. What kind of acting? Xian Wuxing, what are you talking about? I can't beat Qiu Linjian, unless you give me the Emperor's chain. Zhu Yun's eyes narrowed. He didn't know why Xian Wuxing showed his true face, and he thought about countless possibilities in his mind. I can't give you the Chaos Emperor chain, Xian Wuxing shook his head and said, this is for my self-defense. Although Ye Yang is unconscious, there is still Lord Fenjian Thunder and Lightning there. If we fight head-on, I will definitely not be my opponent. Zhu Yun said dissatisfied, you are not your opponent, how can I be Qiu Linjian's opponent? That stinky bitch is so scheming that I dare not confront her. Smelly bitch. Hearing Zhu Yun address Qiu Linjian in this way, Xian Wuzong was also slightly stunned. Do you have a grudge against her? Yes, of course not. Zhu Yun saw Xian Wuzong's reaction, and knew that he had been fooled, and couldn't help but said bitterly, I told you about Qiu Linjian, right? At that time, she deliberately lured me to run around in the fairyland, and finally I was tricked into the chaos. Do you know why she asked me to go to the chaos? Weren't you forced to enter by the 5 elements loose immortals and Zaimen Yuanqing? Xian Wuzong was also stunned. Do you think I'm sick? Zhu Yun glared at him unhappily and said, think about it carefully, they have been staying in the Mayan Bay fairyland. How could I go to the Mayan Bay fairyland when I was fine? Xian Wuzong did learn something from Zaimen Yuanqing, and knew about the grudge between him and Zhu Yun. Thinking carefully, it was really possible. Since there is no need to force it, just lie first. Zhu Yun, as long as I use the Emperor chain to trap the Lord of Wind, Cloud, Thunder, and Lightning, we can join forces to deal with Qiu Linjian. With your talent, you can definitely kill her. Qiu Linjian, that woman, deceived you and almost killed you. Don't you want revenge? I want to dream about it, Zhu Yun gritted his teeth, so I have no choice. I first looked for Purgatory Mountain, but Purgatory Mountain didn't care about it. Even Lin Fei wanted me to join Purgatory Mountain. As a result, I met you when I was trapped. But on the other hand, Xian Wuzong, you are too useless as an immortal master. You were dug out your eyes and trapped by others. You even need me, Luo Tian Xianxian, to help you at this time. Xian Wuzong laughed, I have no choice, but now I have full confidence. As long as you return this eyeball to me, how about it? Eyeball? What eyeball? Zhu Yun pretended to be stupid, but he was also prepared in his heart. Since the Dragon Immortal Pearl can distract the other party's attention, then it is the best time to do it yourself. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1903. Zhu Yun had already guessed something. The Phoenix Immortal Pearl must be here with Xian Wuzong. When he used the Dragon Immortal Pearl before, the tortoise shell where Xian Wuzong was located suddenly glowed with immortal light. The 2 eyeballs were refined into immortal tools by Ye Yang, which means that the immortal power is connected, so they can communicate across tens of millions of miles. Then, Xian Wuzong will definitely be slightly absent-minded when he gets the last eyeball. This is the best opportunity. Of course I can give it to you, Zhu Yun smiled and took out the Dragon Immortal Pearl, saying, return it to its original owner. But I didn't expect that the pearl I stole from the ancestral land of the Dragon Clan would be your eyeball. Zhu Yun stretched out his hand and handed it over, and even lied about bringing the ancestral land of the Dragon Clan, which made Xian Wuzong a little interested again. He was a person in front of Tongtian Immortal Lord, so he naturally knew the origins of the Dragon and Phoenix clans very well. But Zhu Yun chose to steal, so was the Dragon and Phoenix clans guarding the passage to the demon world related to Zhu Yun? He thought it was possible. It must be that Zhu Yun used some mysterious magic to confuse the Dragon and Phoenix clans. In this case, I wonder if we can start from this and make Zhu Yun and Ye Yang enemies. The purpose of Tongtian Immortal Lord is just to disrupt the central immortal realm, whether it is Qiulinjian or Yeyang, so that he can get out of the chaos safely and control the power in the chaos. As for whether it is Qiulinjian or Yeyang, it is not a necessary purpose. He stretched out his hand to grab Zhu Yun's hand, but his mind was full of thoughts, and he responded casually, Zhu Yun, you are really good, you can actually steal my eyeball from the Dragon King. After touching the Dragon Immortal Pearl, Xian Wuzong shrank back in joy and pressed it towards the eye socket. But the next moment, Zhu Yun laughed grimly. I have a greater ability. Do you want to see it? After the words fell, Xian Wuzong hadn't come back to his senses yet, when he heard Zhu Yun's open palm suddenly flipped over and slapped him. Chaos Palm. The majestic chaos immortal power immediately enveloped Xian Wuzong. Not only was Zhu Yun's palm gray and white like fog, but his 5 fingers were more like cliffs that came out of the fog. Like a knife or a sword, each finger stabbed at his weak point. This is not Chaos Palm. Xian Wuzong didn't have time to react, and was led astray by the Chaos Palm, and immediately fell behind. He was 1 step behind, and he didn't have time to suppress Zhu Yun with the power of his realm. He could only turn around and use the hardest part of his tortoise shell to withstand Zhu Yun's claw first. Bang! The chaotic immortal power slammed onto the tortoise shell, setting off a chaotic flow of immortal power, causing the immortal power in the void to vibrate, and the few demonic energy also surged. Zhu Yun, you are looking for death. At this moment, how could Xian Wuzong not know that Zhu Yun wanted to kill him? As a dignified immortal king, if he could not even sense a little murderous intent, he was not qualified to be in front of Tongtian Immortal Lord. Xian Wuzong roared, trying to use the force to distance himself from Zhu Yun first. After pressing the Dragon Immortal Pearl back into his eye socket, his immortal power also increased greatly. He had already shaken his wrist to sacrifice the Chaos Emperor chain. But he never thought that Zhu Yun's claw was not to hurt him. Instead, he wanted to catch him in his Dozhuan Xinyi immortal formation. Come to me! Zhu Yun roared and suddenly retracted his hand. The 5 chaotic immortal powers gushing out of the 5 fingers were immediately tightly wrapped around the tortoise shell. He is a Lucian immortal. The skills in the 5 elements Chaos Sutra may not be able to hurt Xian Wuzong, but if you want to tie him up, it is not too difficult. Feeling that the 5 chaotic immortal powers have tied a knot and completely bound the tortoise shell, Lu Chen quickly flew back. The Dozhuan Xinyi formation is not too far away from him, he can completely support it. Zhu Yun, where are you taking me? Xian Wuzong's head turned suddenly, with mysterious immortal light in his eyes, pointing directly at Zhu Yun's eyes. Zhu Yun felt that it actually contained the power of the law that even he couldn't understand, and he couldn't help but be shocked. But he was experienced, and after a little thought, he came up with a countermeasure. Shenjingju. In an instant, Zhu Yun's eyes also glowed with immortal light. Shenjingju originated from Tongtian Immortal Lord. But Xian Wuzong's was not. Zi La. The 4 eyes met, and the 4 beams of light collided with each other, and the chaotic star sea shook again. The ripples of immortal power spread out in all directions with the 2 people as the center. Some ordinary wastelands were blown into dust fragments after being affected, and drifted away. Zhu Yun, is this the only immortal technique you have? Xian Wuzong grinned, don't you know that this immortal technique was created by me? He, Zhu Yun smiled contemptuously, do you think I don't know that you are just a dog in front of the Tongtian Immortal Lord? As soon as these words came out, Xian Wuzong's face changed drastically, and he exclaimed, how do you know? In the entire immortal world, no more than 3 people knew about this. Apart from Ye Yang and his son, there was only Lin Zhenghong. But he had never dealt with Lin Zhenghong. Because Purgatory Mountain was originally one of the territories of Tongtian Immortal Lord, Xian Wuzong did not need to deal with Lin Zhenghong as the Immortal Lord, and the immortal lord could naturally pass some news to Purgatory Mountain. But how did Zhu Yun know? Xian Wuzong's expression immediately froze, and he already grasped the Chaos Emperor chain in his hand. Zhu Yun, you know too much, you must die today. After saying that, he threw the Chaos Emperor chain towards Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun had long expected that once he fought with Xian Wuzong, he would definitely use the Chaos Emperor chain. So, he had already thought of a countermeasure. Xian Wuzong, since you are not Tongtian Immortal Lord, do you think this Chaos Emperor chain will really be used by you? He has the confidence to speak like this. Because Xian Wuzong was locked in Purgatory Mountain by the Emperor chain and could not escape. It can be seen that Xian Wuzong can only use the Chaos Emperor chain, but not be recognized by the Chaos Emperor chain. In addition, the Chaos Emperor chain was reunited by himself with the great Dao of the unity of the five elements. So he was sure that even if the Chaos Emperor chain could trap him, he would not be restrained. However, Zhu Yun did not dare to be careless. His left hand, which had not moved, instantly took out the immortal mirror from his chest and pointed the back at the Chaos Emperor chain that was attacking. Collect them for me. His eyes were about to burst, success or failure depended on this one move. Swoosh. Instantly. The back of the black glass mirror was like a black hole, generating endless suction. The Chaos Emperor chain also accelerated suddenly, but in the next moment, it was sucked into the glass fairy mirror. Impossible. How could your space fairy weapon contain the fairy weapon containing the law of chaos? Xian Wuzong screamed in shock. Zhu Yun's response was beyond his expectations. Naturally, his plans were also disrupted. Nothing is impossible, Xian Wuzong, get ready to enjoy what I have prepared for you. Zhu Yun laughed and flew into the Dozwan Xinyi array. Warm TI. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1904. Zhu Yun, the immortal formation you set up. Xian Wuxing had just recovered from the disappearance of the Chaos Emperor chain, and felt that the surrounding environment had changed greatly. The starlight of thousands of stars appeared in his eyes. No matter how he didn't understand, he still realized that Zhu Yun had planned something against him. What do you think? Zhu Yun sneered, quickly put away the divine eye technique, and at the same time, he appeared behind Xian Wuxing and slapped him with a palm. This time, it's the real chaos palm. Zhu Yun, your level is too low to hurt me. Do you think you can kill me with one more immortal formation? With his tortoise shell, Xian Wuzong is not afraid of Zhu Yun at all. How can a Luo Tianxian deal with him whose eyes have recovered? What a joke. He didn't even turn around. Immortal light suddenly appeared on his forehead, and he reached out and grabbed it. The fairy light was like substance, like a slender iron rod. It turned and smashed towards Zhu Yun's hand. I can't kill you, what about them? Zhu Yun's eyes flashed, and at the moment when the chaos immortal power and the immortal light rod collided, a small black spot appeared between his eyebrows. 4 figures flew out of the black spots. The 4 demon kings of the soul-eating demon clan. The purpose of the Dozhuangxing immortal formation is to trap the immortal without traces and make it difficult to escape. It is to help the 4 demon kings block the pressure from the immortal way as much as possible. The plan has been agreed upon before, and when the demon kings come out of the glazed immortal realm, this is their chance to take action. Soul-eating palm. Almost at the same time, the 4 demon lords headed by Shi Wuyuan shot towards Xian Wuxing from 4 directions. Demons. Zhu Yun, you actually colluded with the demons. Xian Wuzong was horrified. He felt the immortal soul swaying under these 4 demonic palms, as if it would be pulled out of the immortal body at any time. It is true that the tortoise shell can block most attacks, but it cannot protect his immortal soul. Shrink. With his mind and body horrified, Xian Wujing couldn't care less about his fairy light stick, and retracted his head and limbs into the tortoise shell. Bang! 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 The demonic palms of the four demon kings directly hit the tortoise shell, and the overwhelming demonic energy dissipated. Xian Wuxing, you turned out to be a coward. Zhu Yun did not expect that the other party would be so decisive. Shi Wuyuan also flew to Zhu Yun's side. Immortal Lord, we can't break this immortal weapon. He was unprepared, and this title naturally fell into Xian Wuxing's ears. Why does this demon clan call Zhu Yun the immortal master? Xian Wuxing is very confident in his turtle shell. It can be said that in this heavenly realm, no one can break it. Just because this is an immortal weapon that was refined by immortal Lord Tongtian himself and awarded to him. After hundreds of thousands of years of refining, it has become one with him. No way at all. Zhu Yun also frowned, originally thinking that the soul-eating demon clan's natal magic power could directly affect Xian Wuxing's immortal soul regardless of the turtle's defense. This is the result. So, my immortal soul hammer is useless. But how will you know if you don't try it? After Zhu Yun reached out to press his eyebrows again, he suddenly pulled out the immortal soul hammer, and then smashed it hard towards the tortoise shell. Immortal light shone, and a huge force bounced back from the handle of the hammer. Zhu Yun didn't hold it firmly and flew straight away. Hiss. Zhu Yun took a breath. This really doesn't work. Ha ha ha, Zhu Yun, you didn't expect it, so what if I'm a coward? There's nothing you can do against me. Xian Wuxing saw Zhu Yun deflated, huddled in the tortoise shell and laughed heartily. Zhu Yun snorted coldly and said, Xian Wuxing, don't be too happy too early. I have plenty of time to waste with you. Consumption. Xian Wuxing laughed even louder, can you outlast me? When the Lord is born, the fairy world will eventually return to the Lord's control. My Lord, are you referring to the immortal Lord Tongtian? Zhu Yun narrowed his eyes. I didn't expect you to even know the name of my Lord, but it's not surprising. After all, you already know that I am not the immortal Lord. Let me guess, it was the Dragon King who told you. He already knew that his previous guesses must be wrong, so it was impossible for Zhu Yun to steal the Dragon Immortal Pearl from the Dragon clan's ancestral land. What do you think? Ye Yang secretly asked Feng Wang to bring a soul out, so it was naturally impossible for Zhu Yun to tell Xian Wuxing the news. Even if he wants to kill Xian Wujing, what if something unexpected happens and Xian Wujing escapes? It can only be the Dragon King, Xian Wuzong said. In the fairy world, even the four immortal emperors don't know my true identity, so there are only two possibilities for the divine beasts. And the Phoenix King has always been in the Chinese fairyland and has not come out. Apart from that, I can't think of anyone else. It's not important, Zhu Yun shook his head and said, Immortal Lord Tongtian is trapped in chaos, and the source of origin does not exist at all. Let me guess, it is the news you released, okay, rescue the immortal Lord Tongtian, right? Yes, Zhu Yun, you are very smart, and you are worthy of being the son of destiny. It's just a pity that the Lord will only come out after some more time. So, even if you trap me here, what can you do? As long as the Lord is still there in this immortal world, you will never be able to break through the tortoise shell refined by the masters Ningxian Dao. Xian Wujing seemed to be at a disadvantage, but he didn't show any fear at all. Instead, he was extremely mocking. But in fact, he was still a little worried, afraid that Zhu Yun would see some clues. He was very anxious to make the central fairyland chaotic, so that Ye Yang would not have time to notice the changes in the chaos. That's why he tried every means to let Zhu Yun enter the central fairyland, whether it was fighting with Qiu Linjianpi or fighting with Ye Yang. As long as there was chaos and Ye Yang's attention was diverted, it would be a great help to Tongtian Immortal Lord. But these words gave Zuyun an invisible reminder. The tortoise shell is an immortal weapon under this immortal way. But what if it is placed in his own Liuli immortal realm? At that time, I am the immortal master and have my own immortal way. Your tortoise shell. What can it do? Zuyun thought of this method, but he was a little unsure. In the Liuli immortal realm, there is only one place to stay now, and that is the soul-devouring demon star. The creatures originally in it, plus the creatures of the soul-devouring demon clan. It can be said that the foothold is not stable. Even if Xian Wuzong is not recognized by Liuli Xiandao, he is still in the realm of Xianjun and can exert the strength of Xianjun. If he knows that he is at a dead end and destroys it wantonly, even if he destroys a trace of Xiandao in Liuli Xianja, he will lose more than he gains. And Chaos Lotus is still going to turn Liuli Star into chaos, and it has reached a very critical step. Zuyun dare not take risks. Haha, Zuyun is sensible, just give up. What if you beat me, or kill me? When the time comes, the immortal Lord will be born, and you will die. It is better for you to swear the immortal way and recognize me as your Lord. Then you and I will be the favorites of the Lord, below the immortal way and above the immortal world. Isn't it beautiful? Hearing this, the four demon kings couldn't help but be shocked and looked at Zuyun. To be honest, they don't know Zuyun well enough. But then, Zuyun raised his head, looked at Xian Wuzong coldly, and said, I didn't agree to be the immortal lord when you asked me to be the immortal lord. Now you want me to be the running dog of Tongtian immortal lord. Do you think it's possible? After the words fell, Zuyun kicked him fiercely. This kick was just to vent his anger, and he kicked Xian Wuzong directly 100 miles away. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1905. Seeing Zuyun like this, all the demon lords couldn't help but frown, feeling that Zuyun's behavior was a bit too casual. However, they couldn't say it out loud, as they were more or less afraid of angering Zuyun. It was obvious that Zuyun was not in a very good mood. Immortal Master, how about bringing him into the glazed immortal realm? In that case, even if our four demon lords are not enough, I can call on all the clansmen to deal with it together, injure his immortal soul with the soul-eating demonic palm, and then engulf it. Shi Wuyuan also took the initiative to say. And the fact that he changed from calling himself me to me is actually an acknowledgement of Zuyun's identity. Zuyun shook his head and said, the Liuli immortal realm is at a very critical moment now, and we don't know what other trump cards Xian Wujing has. He expressed his worries, and all the demon kings nodded, secretly praising Zuyun's thoughtfulness. As for why we kicked him away, Zuyun chuckled and said, do you think I am angry because of shame? Don't dare. The four demon lords were all shocked, but they didn't expect Zuyun to see it. It's just that I don't want him to see that we can disappear here. As soon as he finished speaking, Zuyun took them back to the glazed immortal realm, and at the same time, he ducked into it. Before the immortal mansion, Zuyun explained, as the person in front of Tongtian immortal lord, Xian Wuzong doesn't say what his methods are, but as for being well informed and the Liuli immortal realm is not yet complete, if he is allowed to pass the news to Tongtian immortal lord, it may be a disaster for the Liuli immortal realm. I don't have this kind of experience in the immortal realm, right? Zuyun was so frank, and the faces of the demon kings showed even more shame. Some of them felt that Zuyun was too young before, but now some of them felt that Zuyun was more far-sighted than them. However, Zuyun said with a smile again, even you think I am acting out of impulse. I think Xian Wuxing will think the same way, so he will be somewhat relaxed. I have set up the Dozhuan scene shifting immortal formation outside, and Xian Wuxing will temporarily we won't be able to get out for a while, so we can have a good discussion here about how to deal with it. After saying these words, the four demon lords were sincerely convinced and did not dare to have any bad suspicions about Zhu Yun. Meng Wei and Wan Potion also walked out of the immortal mansion and sat with them. What, killed Xian Wuxing? Meng Wei asked curiously. Zhu Yun shook his head and said, no, I can't break Xian Wuxing's tortoise shell that is used to tell fortunes. Turtle shell. Meng Wei frowned and said, how about you ask Ji Tianqing? These words undoubtedly made Zhu Yun's eyes light up. Yes, Xian Wuxing was also a member of the Ji family, and Ji Tianqing also gave him a fortune at that time, saying that he was the immortal lord, and the Ji family's ancestral training was to assist the immortal lord. At that time, Zhu Yun didn't take it to heart. He thought it was nonsense and he had never thought about becoming an immortal master. So, Ji Tianqing's words were forgotten. But at this time, isn't he the immortal lord of the glazed immortal realm? It can be regarded as his calculation of this hexagram, right? Moreover, the Ji family had been recognized by heaven as early as in the world of Dazhu. Now that the Dazhu world has become the Liulai immortal world, it means that he was absolutely right in his calculations. The most important thing is that Ji Tianqing and his family all use tortoise shells to tell fortunes, and their magical skills are exactly the same as those of Xian Wuxing. Thinking of this, Zhu Yun's breathing became rapid, and he couldn't hold it in any longer, and said, four demon lords, please discuss it here, I'll go find Ji Tianqing. Although Shi Wuyuan and others didn't know who Ji Tianqing was, seeing Zhu Yun's reaction, they naturally knew that things must have turned around. Besides Zhu Yun's words, they wouldn't have any objections at all now. This is evident from his previous actions. Just go ahead, immortal master. I will talk about the previous fight with Xian Wuxing with 10,000 immortal friends and Dream Demon Lord. Shi Wuyuan said immediately. Zhu Yun also nodded and walked away. The next moment, Zhu Yun appeared in Qingping Imperial City. Qingping Fairy Kingdom no longer exists. But all the buildings in the Imperial City were moved to the soul-eating demon star by Zhu Yun. The Imperial City is next to the original World Sea, and the demonic sea beasts there are extremely happy at this time, because they all feel the extremely pure demonic energy. Not to mention that they are very intelligent. Even if they are not intelligent, the newly born descendants of the demons will instinctively flow to the surface of the sea and greedily absorb the pure demonic energy. Such a grand scene naturally attracted the original Immortals to stop and watch. What's even more amazing is 12 totem poles, holding up the trial platform, appeared behind the center of the sea. This also makes the Xianxia platform unattainable for ordinary Immortals for no reason. However, Zhu Yun has no time to meddle in such noisy matters at this time. Once Xian Wuxing is solved, he will have plenty of time to deal with it. After appearing in the Imperial City, he dodged again and sat on the top of the palace. Ji Tianqing seemed to have expected Zhu Yun to come and had been waiting there early. I've met the Immortal Lord. Ji Tianqing knew that Zhu Yun didn't like his various rules, so she didn't get up. She sat on the roof, crossed her legs gracelessly, and said hello with a smile on her face. Old Ji, Zhu Yun also sat down next to him and said, your destiny, immortal weapon, if someone in the same realm wants to break it, what should you do? The immortal lord means. Ji Tianqing was stunned. He had expected that Zhu Yun would come, but he had not calculated why Zhu Yun was coming. This was totally unceremonious, as if it was aimed at his life. Old Ji, we have known each other for many years, and there is no need to hide it from you. Your ancestor wants my life, do you think I should kill him? Yes. Ji Tianqing said one word without any hesitation, and his tone was very affirmative. This surprised Zhu Yun. Immortal Lord, Ji Tianqing said slowly, the ancestor is the ancestor of the Ji family, but I, Old Ji, am the minister of the Immortal Lord. Maybe the word minister is not suitable, but that's the meaning. Zhu Yun understood and said bluntly, he shrinks into his own immortal weapon, I can't break it, even. Looking into the distance, Zuyun continued, even the 4 demon kings of the same realm who specialize in restraining immortal souls have no way to deal with him. Ji Tianqing sighed and said, Immortal Lord, do you know that our Ji family makes a living by calculating destiny? The ancestor can calculate the secrets of the immortal world, so he is naturally recognized by the immortal way. You break his tortoise shell, which is tantamount to breaking the immortal way. Then, in this Liuli immortal realm, if you also shrink into your tortoise shell, even if the demon king or the immortal king comes, can't you break it? Ji Tianqing chuckled and said, yes. Unless he can hurt you, the immortal lord, otherwise, no one can kill me. Zuyun suddenly realized. No wonder Ye Yong didn't kill Xian Wuzong, but only imprisoned him. Because, as long as Tongtian immortal lord is not dead, Xian Wuzong will be immortal. So that's it? Zuyun said in a concentrated tone, then, is there no other way? Ji Tianqing shook his head and said, there is a way, but, it's very difficult.